Yes, you can. So good morning, everyone. I hope that most of you slept well. I understand that some people probably didn't woke up yet. So this is me, close to me. I perceive myself a bit lucky. I have the privilege to meet really interesting people around the globe with amazing ideas about games. And usually when you meet these people, it's not just about the ideas and the way they think, it's also it's a very romantic stage. They have to believe in what they are doing. Otherwise, none of us will do anything, because it's a dream. So before we start, I want to introduce you a short video of our approach, and then I will not talk about us anymore during this presentation.
So, you've got an idea for a mobile game, and at its core, it's a chance-based game that's free to play. You know it's going to be the next top-charting hit in all app stores, the kind of game that goes viral. Introducing Madness Ventures, a one-of-a-kind game dev launch platform designed to help develop, market, and launch your game to the world. Powering your idea, your game globally. Now it's your time to create, design, develop, and grow your dreams. Our madness, the winning combo. Built with Madness Ventures. MadnessVentures.productmadness.com.
Oops, sorry. So to give you context, I don't know how many of you know about Product Madness, but Product Madness is part of the Aristocrat Group. Aristocrat is a public company in Australia, originally manufacturing the slots, the physical slots, and selling to the casino houses around the world. About 7-8 years ago, they have decided to tap into the mobile world, and they acquired Product Madness that was nothing with the gaming that we see today. It was a test bed. After it, they acquired Plarium, our sister company, which is doing RPG games, and Big Fish, they're doing casual games. So today, the mobile gaming of the Aristocrat is more than 50% of the revenue of the whole group. Think about a company 8 years ago, and how it would look today. It was practically half of the size of the company without this mobile growth. So this is the vision that exists within the DNA of the company. Today, Product Madness, that was founded in 2007, has about 800 employees. Just to explain the growth, we had about 200 employees about 2.5 years ago. And when we look at the market and we look at the potential, we understood that there is a huge place to grow. But in order to grow, you have to be global. So from a company that was based in London and a Lviv-based development center, today we have about 7 global hubs. One of them is here in Poland, in Gdansk. And we have today 6 games that all of them are in the top 25 games in the world. We are a public company that Product Madness itself cannot present its numbers, but let's say that we are the second largest in the Aristocrat group. So when we're looking on the initiatives of new games, you say, okay, you have great games, you have big activities, why are you looking for new games? And the reason is that we believe that as we sit in a company, really there are people, teams around the globes that are having great ideas, but we don't know where they are. So we're trying to identify them by attracting them to a plan. This is our initiative. But now let's switch and look from the entrepreneur, from the game entrepreneur perspective. So I don't know how many of you already raised money for games, if you can raise your hands. So there are some. How many plan to raise money? There are one. So I think the one that raised money knows that it's a journey. And when we say a journey, it's usually something that when you are in the romantic part, you don't want to think about it, because you want to think about your game, how it will come to the market, how the gamers will enjoy it. So what do we mean by a journey? So like any journey in the world, practically, you need to plan it. And usually we know to plan what we know. So in many cases, we do not ask the questions in the right timing, and when we get to these junctions, we not necessarily have enough information or the right tools to deal with this situation. So I would say we need to understand where we are starting. So when you raise money, you can be in the ideation stage, in the concept. Or maybe you did already. You develop a prototype, you develop the game, you are getting to the market. Each of the games can find themselves in a different situation when they need the funds to secure or to check the chance of this game. And unfortunately today, it will cost a lot. Because even if you develop the game, you need now to market it, to have the user acquisition. And the ones that are in the gaming knows that it's a very, very challenging and today very, very data-driven approach. And when you are small, not necessarily you have all the tools. When we say the road or which trail are we going to take? Actually, we need to understand in which genre we are playing, who are the competitors that we are looking at. The other competitors, it's not necessarily just the other games, it's other games that are looking for funding, because you have competitors in the market, but you have competitors when you're looking for funding. And we have to understand both. And one of the main questions, why would I win? In the meaning, why do I have a chance that my game will conquer the world? We'll take this genre, we'll take this segment. And we'll touch it in a moment later because it's a major question. Because when you have a game and you believe in it, sometimes you say this is because of the visuals, this is because of the gameplay. But you have to ask yourself, really, this is the reason it will be the winners against the existing games that are already theirs, they know the market? Good question for us to ask. And one of the most important, what about our target audience? Do we understand the players? Or are we assuming understand the players? What does it mean? And when we're talking about the audience, is also the investors. Really, do we understand how they think when I will come to them? All those questions is questions, not the answers. And the last point is, do I have the right skills, the right team in place in order to do all this journey? So, a long checklist. But if you ask about funding, so you don't need me, go to ChatGPT. These are all the options. You can self-fund yourself. If you have a hyper-casual game, try to self-fund yourself. It's a quick cycle. Don't waste your time to get money. Later down the road, maybe yes. Publishing. You have a game that is already out there and you need just money to market it. Well, publisher probably will be one of the best options for you. Not necessarily the only, but one of them. Financial partners, VC, bank loans, probably this is one that will be a heavy duty to bring, but on the other end, sometimes this is the amount of money that you need and you have to go to this journey. And strategic partners. Strategic partners will be usually players in this segment that want to extend their portfolio and have initiative maybe to promote, but again, they are looking at also financial end game. But for this, you don't need me here. So when we are talking about a theoretical example, so I will tell you that we are facing, through our incubator program, with a flow of concepts coming to us. And actually, this is the approach that we are taking. So when you have a new idea, I think the first question to ask yourself is about, where do I start? So let's take the longest one that we can have, a concept. I'm just having an idea. I put it on a slideshow. I didn't develop anything. This is the stage that I'm in. Now, let's ask, what is the road? What do we mean by what is the road? When you have an idea, usually you will not invent the wheel. It will come with relevance games that are in existing genres. So when you want to communicate your concept, you need to bridge between what you think and let's say your target audience at this stage are the investors that you are going to, how they segment those ideas. So for example, if you have idea of a game which is a fast follower against existing game, or you're doing a mashup, you're taking two genres and you having a new story to tell about the concept that you are presenting. But make sure for yourself which road you are taking. Now, when you were talking about the other travelers and why would I win? So one of the first questions that we have to ask ourselves and to understand, let's step back and understand the market. Is it a red ocean market, meaning that there are so many games there, it's going after a specific segment that have variety of alternative? Or theoretically, it's a new market. There, we are in an industry or many technology-related industry. There are all the time a new market, blockchain, NFC. These are words that you can say it's a blue ocean. No one is playing there. Probably no one is playing there, but it's a different way to understand if it will be a success or not. So first of all, understand which game or which concept you are coming and to which arena you are stepping in. Now, if you're going after a red ocean, which today in the gaming industry, in most cases it will be like this. You will not find usually an area that no one is playing there. So the question is, how are you going to win? Really, imagine yourself now 2 years down the road, you developed all your dream game, you're now going to market it. Why a player will choose you and stay with your game while he has other options? So again, very high level direction that when investors are looking, they're saying, okay, we really not looking for someone that will invent the wheel because we don't know how the next car will look. So if you have now a car with no wheels, it's really inventing something that no one knows how it will work. So, but usually you want to look for innovation part that will, I would say 20 to 30% of the concept will be something new. What is something new? It can be a scope of features that will represent this content, but the majority probably should be based on existing activities, examples that already verified in the market. Now you have to differentiate because when you will be asked why you will win, you said, okay, this is my innovation, and this innovation will bring me to an edge when I will come to the market. Now, sometimes it's the approach that you will take. It's not necessarily about a specific feature, but sometimes it's a combination of a different experience. But this is what you believe is the differentiation, and you have to communicate it. So now you have an assumption about what you believe is going to work, why there is a chance for you. Still, you have just a slideshow. You didn't do anything. You are now going to the meetings with investors to raise the money because you want to raise the money. So one of the questions when you're going is, what are you looking for? So let's say that you have a long journey. How much you want to raise? Because you're going to bank an investor, you will, okay, say, seems to be interesting, makes sense. Neither of us knows what will happen in a minute from now, so I believe your story. At the end, it's a storytelling. It's not something that we can predict at this time. So what do I mean by knowing my customers? So the main issue that I have many assumptions, but practically I know nothing. So the main approach that I will suggest is to ask yourself, what is the fastest timeline that I can test it really in the market? So when you have a concept and you're now starting to develop your roadmap, you have your dream games and you have all the features and everything, you see the big pictures. But the reality is that if the base, the core will not work, it doesn't matter what you will have down the road. So let's say that you believe that the visual, the 3D is the main reason for people to play with your game. So the question will be how you can test it. So usually what we will look is something that will say, okay, develop what you believe is the core engagement game, which will be with not the 3D visuals, with the more basic visuals, with experience that is much, much different than what you expect at the end. But go within a few weeks to maximum few months and make acquisition of players that will play, really play, and aim to KPIs. So practically what we are saying, go with a fast failure approach. Live now your dream, divided it 2 junctions, develop the first junction, go with it to the market, define what you say it will be, what is it a success or what is not. So for example, if we go to day 1 retention, what is the expected retention that I can expect from this level of game? While I know that in the market, in a benchmark, let's say it's 15% on day 1. I know that my game is not there yet. So maybe I'm expecting a discount of 30% less, but 10% I want to see at least that are retaining the first day, and I don't have content more than 1 day. The approach, it's also the approach that can convince people to put their money, because they say, you know, I will need millions of dollars, but I'm not asking you for those for this amount at this stage. I'm asking to have the amount that will support us to go to the market as quickly as we can, to get the sense, and to continue to another cycles. So don't assume you know the player. It's good for the PowerPoint, but go as fast as you can to the market. And when we go to the last point is about the skills. When you go to people that will put their money on you, and even if you would like to put the money on someone else, what do you ask? Who are the people? Who is the team? What they know about what they are saying? Is there any expertise? So again, the team is one of the most critical success criteria in any industry, in any stage. And usually you want to bring a small team, dedicated team at this stage that will be with the right level of experience. Now, I will not go all the bullets regarding the team, but you need to understand that, and I tell you very openly, we see it with a lot of meetings, that in the gaming, for example, you have very strong people that coming from development, from art, from technology related. And when they're telling the story to the target audience, in our case, it's potential investors, we are looking for their understanding about the market, not just about the concept. So when you develop a game, we are asking, who are the players that you are targeting, what they are looking for, what their alternatives, and when we say, why do you win, explain to us how your approach will be different. And in many cases, you will not necessarily will have it within the team. So if you understand that this type of question will be asked, ask yourself who can be your partners, even that are not part of your core team, in order to help you to come with the broader approach, even if you are now in the early stage of the concept. So if we look on the overall process of this winning game studio, you can see that they planned it out. The outcome of the plan was that practically it will take them about 2 years from this concept until they will be in the market. If you're an hyper-casual, you know that you can be in the market in a few weeks. If you are in the genre of this example of a mashup in social casino, this will be probably the journey in reality. So if I have in these 2 years, they divided it to the milestone. The first milestone is about how to prototype it quickly. So how really to get the ability to get the sensing from the market within few months, based on it, to continue to the next stage. And in the approach that we are taking, we usually want to see prototypes getting to at least 2 cycles to get to the day 7 KPIs. What does it mean, day 7? You see players play with the game that is not really a game, it's just a prototype, with sufficient content for them for day 7, and you want to see how many of them keep staying for 7 days against what you predict a KPI, and the prediction is against what similar games has in the market. And today the data is available for everyone. Go to any Sensor Tower, Appsani, and other, you can have those numbers. So when you get to the point, you say, okay, I see that the game retain users. What does it mean retaining? So if I can retain customer, later I can talk about monetization. I don't have to talk about opening a shop, in-app, ad monetization in those stages, because if players will not play, I will not be able to monetize them. And at this stage, if you have this signs of oil, meaning that the market is responding in a way that can predict a success, this is the point that you say, okay, let's now go to full development. And at this stage, it depends on the length of the development. But let's assume that now, after you did the 2 cycles of concept, it probably will take you a year, maybe a year plus, until you can soft launch this game. And now you cannot work with a team of 4 or 5 people. Now you need to work with a team of 20, 30 people. And you need to do more UA tests because you don't want to be disconnected for a year from the market, so you have to develop also those tests. If you quantify this need, you will find yourself that just for a development stage, you will need now, instead of a few dozens of thousands of dollars or maybe $100,000 to $200,000 in the concept, a few millions. Now, here it's coming back to the first investors. If you went to the friends and family that finance your prototypes concept because you wanted to go to investors that looking already for data, so you are aiming to potentially strategic partner in this genre or venture capital, but you're coming with data. If you started with a partner that look at you from the beginning, said maybe it will be interesting for me to continue investment, so he got already some kind of a sense during the initial investment, and potentially will continue with you. So this potentially can shortcut your second round of investment, because if you started with friends and family, you have to start from scratch. But you have data, you have concept. If you started with someone that can continue investing because he's a bigger potential investor, he will be much easier to continue in terms of time to investment, not time to market. And then you get to the last stage. You develop the game, 2 years passed, you're going to the market, and you find yourself that this is a very competitive market. CPI can cost, I don't know, from $2 to $20, depends on what you're doing. And the return on investment can be, for every investment of $1, 6 to 12 months. So most of the investment today when you have the game is, one, is to continue to develop the game because it has to keep alive. And the second is to bring the users, the customers, the players. And in this stage, again, either you will find yourself looking for a new investor that will put money for publishing, so it can be a publisher, because you have a game, or you have the ones that put already the money and say, okay, let's do some tests, not the small test that we did before, but a bigger level of tests that we can take them to decide if it's having financial impact. And at this stage, you will find yourself that you need not the 2 or 3 millions like you developed, much more money, because this is the competitive landscape. Every million that you put this month, you will get it back 6 or 7 or 9 months later. And if you don't want to wait for it, you need a few millions for the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months. So this is the reality of this example of this genre. And when we look at this quick math, and we say, look, 2 plus 1 year after launch, it will be around $20 million. So if I came in the beginning and I asked for $20 million, if I will put a chains game, how many will get $20 million against a presentation? Maybe there is 1 or 2 people in the world against their name will get it. Most of us will not get it. So if I understand this journey, now I can also plan my steps in order to achieve what is needed, in order for me to get to the point that I will be able to get to the accumulate 20 millions, and hopefully this game will generate, the dream of 50, 100 million, 3 or 4 years down the road. Now, I'm talking about a dream. Most games are not getting to the 50 to $100 million of revenue a year. I think in the last 2 or 3 years, there was about 20 games that reached it within the first 2 years. But when you aim to the dream, and you will find reality, it will be a meaningful game. But if you aim for a dream of a game that will potentially will have $5 or $10 million a year, and you miss it, it probably will die after it, because it will be very hard to finance it all the way. So practically what we are saying, plan by understanding the different type of customer and audience that you will have. Look at the mirror, understand that not necessarily you have all the tools. Consult in advance, create all the skills, all the information needed, and then go really to start this journey of raising money in order to build your dream your romantic part today. So, any questions?
If you have any questions to our guest, let me know. I will pass you microphone. And first of all, thank you very much for passionate lecture.
What are some common mistakes that people make when they're coming to start funding for the first time?
Well,
how do you avoid them?
Well, all of us, I think everyone is doing mistakes. It's not that you can prevent yourself from doing mistakes. I think when you're going to small teams in the early stage, that they're having the idea of a game, they are passionate about the game, they are focusing on the game. So they will have a passion about explaining about the game. And in most cases, or in many cases, they will fail to understand the audience that they are talking with. So investors, and we are a gaming company, so we are also passionate about games, but when we change at, when we need to invest in games, we are playing the devil advocate. So we don't know exactly if it will be a success or not, because we don't predict the future, but when someone comes with an idea and he will not understand the type of question and why they are being asked, he will miss this opportunity. And usually when you go to the journey of investment, I will suggest not to go to one investor. You will go to many. But each event that you will have with one potential investor, it will be one event. If you will not be able to create the attention and also, let's say, the passion in the other side, you lost it. So this is usually, you have to understand you are going to talk to many people. Not all the investors are the same. It's very subjective. Maybe I look it from this angle, the other one will look it from another angle, but try to understand this is audience that you need to look for the issues that they are aiming at. I hope I answered.
Okay, any other questions?
You mentioned 7-day KPI. Do you have more examples of some, KPIs or how to measure the early stages? What would be the easy way, sort of cheap for a startup company with not too many people?
So I think this is the two main questions. One, what do I want to measure in order to indicate for us that it's going to the right direction? So let's take day 7. When we're talking about engagement, and it's dependent on the game, you ask yourself what can be an indicators for engagement. So for example, the easiest one is how many from the ones that download this game playing at least at the 7 days. So this will be the high-level one. Another one will be, for example, how many sessions per day I can see with this player. So if it's a player that plays once a day and he came 7 days, nice. But if the benchmark in the industry said that in these types of games there are at least 3 to 5 sessions a day and you have one, doesn't say it's good or bad, but you say what is the KPI that I'm aiming. Another one is the time. How much time people are playing. It can be day 1, day 2. And again, the number by itself is less relevant. It's relevant against a benchmark. So usually you look for this type of numbers that you can take from the industry and say, very realistically, I cannot be in these numbers because these are mature games. But the indication to be in the right direction will be these numbers minus kind of a discount, usually 30, 40% less than what you have in the industry. And again, geography based. So if you go with a game that you're aiming to the US market, and you take the benchmark from the US market, not necessarily you have to acquire users in the US market. Sometimes there are markets that behave similar in terms of the retention, but it will cost you less to acquire them. So, but the Philippines, as an example that you said, it's a general market, but it's not necessarily relevant to all games. So you can acquire them theoretically much cheaper, but if they will not give you the right indication for the relevant target market that you look for it after 2 years, so you got the customers, but it's really not an indication. So this is one option. These are type of KPIs. There are today different tools for doing tests. So one tool which is the best, I will call it the best, but is actually acquire users. You need statistically a few thousands that we will play, and then you will get statistic. There are today some kind of cloud testing that can enable you indication, but it will not be all the way to KPI. So maybe before deciding about putting your limited money of user acquisition, you can do a relatively cheap test on a cloud environment with real players that will give you feedbacks. And then you will go to the user test. But this is usually the approach that will be relatively quick and relatively cheap, not without cost.
Okay, anyone else? Don't be afraid.
Yes, can you give us an example of a success, like a success story of a company came to you and raised funds, and why did you invest?
So for us to say success story, I hope I will tell you in a year, 2 years from now, because when we are focusing today in product management, actually we are focusing on two areas. One, what we call the M&A. In this case, we look for mature games and we acquire them. So if you have money, it's much easier, but there has to be opportunity, so it's not so easy. In the Madness Venture, we are focusing on concept, and as we said, we are assuming that the journey is 2 years. This is our assumption in our genre. When we are looking in our genre, when we call social casino, actually we want to get ideas from all over. So we're not talking about slots games or bingo games, which are very defined genres. We are saying there is a luck element in the core, and ideas can come from all over. And by doing so, we are expanding the borders for ideas. And regarding the question, we saw, I think, we launched it officially last August. We saw more than, I think, 150 concepts since then. There are already concepts that are being tested in different cycles. Actually, our approach, as we said, is 3-month cycles. First 3 months is to day 1, second cycle is for day 7, and this we have a junction both for us and the partner. If to continue or not, he can continue without us or with us if it's making interesting. At this stage, regarding success, we consider success, first of all, that we get a flow of ideas because it's not trivial in the world. Second is that we chose several that are in this plan, and we believe that in the next few months, there will be at least a few that we potentially will go to full development. But as we said, it's the journey also for us. And I think only when we'll get to the point that one of those games will be in the market fully, we'll call it a success. I can tell you that today, the partners that we have in this program are actually coming from South America, Europe, and Asia. So actually, it's global. And the reason for it is that no one needs to know me personally or part of the team. Everything on the web, everything transparent, and actually all the application should come from the web because we want people to get the understanding about the program, and then we are starting to ask questions, and only the one that seems to be relevant to us, not to waste the time of the partners. We are going to a deeper process, and this deeper process is the question that we ask. So success, I hope we can measure it in a year and a half from now.
Thanks. One more question or 2 more questions? Okay, if we don't have any questions anymore, then thank again to Zvika.
Thank you very much.